The USS Prometheus hurtled through the void, its experimental FTL drive pushing the ship faster than any human vessel had gone before. Captain Jack Hondo Hansen lounged in his chair, feet propped up on the console. "Luca, how's our baby holding up?" Chief Engineer Luca Esposito's voice crackled over the intercom. "She's purring like a kitten, Cap, but I still say we should have tested this thing more before." The ship jolted violently, alarms blaring. Jack crashed to the floor. "You just had to jinx it." On the bridge, lights flashed and sparks flew. "Report!" Jack barked, pulling himself up. "FTL drive is offline," Comms Officer Rahim Daoud said, frantically working the controls. "We've dropped out of warp." Dr. Ethan Nakamura, the ship's xenoanthropologist, looked up from his console, his face pale. "Captain, I don't recognize any of these star configurations. We're lost." Jack grinned, slapping Ethan on the back. "Cheer up, Doc. It's not every day you get to boldly go where no one has gone before. Think of all the new aliens you'll get to study." Ethan managed a weak smile. "I suppose you're right, Captain. But how will we get home?" "One problem at a time," Jack said. "First, let's see if there's anyone nearby we can talk to." Rahim's console beeped. "Captain, we're being hailed." "On screen." The view screen flickered to life, revealing a severe-looking alien with scaly green skin and piercing yellow eyes. "Unidentified vessel. You have violated Kazarn space. Identify yourselves." Jack put on his most charming smile. "Greetings. I'm Captain Jack Hansen of the USS Prometheus. We come in peace, seeking nothing more than friendship and a spare flux capacitor." The Kazarn blinked, nonplussed. "Your response is irrelevant. You will surrender your vessel and prepare to be boarded." "Whoa there, friend," Jack said. "Let's not be hasty. I'm sure we can come to some arrangement." The Kazarn cut the transmission. Rahim turned to Jack, eyebrow raised. "Smooth, Captain." Luca's voice crackled over the intercom again. "Cap, that flux capacitor line was a joke, right? Because if it wasn't, I've got some bad news." Jack rubbed his temples. "Okay, new plan. We need to find a place to lay low and get our bearings. Ethan, any habitable planets nearby?" Ethan scanned his readouts. "There's a Class M planet not far from here. Minimal Kazarn presence detected." "Perfect," Jack said. "Take us down." The Prometheus limped into the planet's atmosphere, setting down in a dense jungle. As the crew disembarked, they were met with a wall of humid heat and the raucous calls of alien wildlife. "Okay, team," Jack said. "Let's split up and see what we can find. Ethan, Rahim, you're with me. Luca, stay with the ship and see what you can do about repairs." Luca grumbled, wiping sweat from his brow. "Sure thing, Cap. I'll just MacGyver a warp core out of coconuts and palm fronds." As they trekked through the undergrowth, Ethan marveled at the strange flora and fauna. "Captain, this is incredible. The biodiversity here is unlike anything I've ever seen." "Eyes on the prize, Doc," Jack said. "We're here for parts, not pets." Suddenly, Rahim held up a hand, motioning for silence. "Captain, look." Through the trees, they spotted a group of Kazarn loading crates onto a shuttle. Jack's eyes narrowed. "Those don't look like official Kazarn uniforms. I think we've stumbled onto something big." As they watched, one of the crates broke open, spilling its contents, glittering crystals that Jack recognized instantly. "Well, well, looks like we've found our ticket home." Chapter 2. The Art of the Deal. Chapter 2. The Art of the Deal. The bustling marketplace of the Quom trading post was a riot of color, noise, and exotic smells. Jack and Rahim wove through the crowd, their eyes peeled for anything that might help repair the Prometheus. "Captain, I've got a bad feeling about this," Rahim muttered. "The Quom aren't exactly known for their fair dealing." Jack clapped him on the shoulder. "Relax, Rahim. You and I are the dream team. We could sell ice to a Klingon." They approached a stall manned by a portly Quom with a beady-eyed stare. "Well, well," the Quom said, rubbing his hands together. "What have we here? A couple of lost humans, far from home?" Jack flashed his most disarming grin. "Lost? No, no, my friend. We're exactly where we want to be. We've heard great things about the Quom's legendary bargains." The Quom's eyes narrowed. "Is that so? And what, pray tell, are you in the market for?" Rahim stepped forward, producing a list. "We need a quantum flux regulator, a neutronium power coupling, and a phase-inverted tachyon emitter." The Quom whistled. "Quite the shopping list, and I suppose you have something of equal value to trade?" Jack reached into his pocket and pulled out one of the crystals they'd found. "How about this?" The Quom's eyes widened, then quickly narrowed again. "A Zarnian power crystal. Very rare, very valuable. Where did you get it?" "That's not important," Jack said smoothly. "What matters is that we're willing to trade it for the parts we need." The Quom stroked his chin. "I might be able to procure what you need, but it will cost you more than one measly crystal." Rahim leaned in, his voice low. "How about we sweeten the deal? 2 crystals, and we'll throw in a genuine Earth artifact." "An Earth artifact, you say?" The Quom's interest was piqued. Rahim nodded, pulling out a ballpoint pen. "Behold, the mighty stylus of the ancients, used by our greatest scholars and leaders." The Quom took the pen, turning it over in his hands. "Fascinating. We have a deal." As they walked away, their newly acquired parts in hand, Jack turned to Rahim. "The mighty stylus of the ancients? Really?" Rahim shrugged, grinning. "Hey, it worked, didn't it?" Their celebration was short-lived, however, as a group of burly Quom blocked their path. The leader, a scar-faced brute, stepped forward. "You have something that belongs to us," he growled. Jack held up his hands. "Whoa, easy there, friend. I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding." The Quom held up a crystal, identical to the ones they'd found. "These crystals are the property of the Zarnian Consortium. Hand them over, or face the consequences." Rahim's eyes darted around, searching for an escape route. "Captain, I think it's time for one of your famous improvised plans." Jack's mind raced. They couldn't give up the crystals, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Suddenly, his eyes fell on a nearby stall selling musical instruments. He grinned. "Hey, big guy," he called to the Quom leader. "I'll make you a deal, a contest. If we win, we keep the crystals. If you win, they're yours." The Quom narrowed his eyes. "What kind of contest?" Jack grabbed a strange, flute-like instrument from the stall. "A music contest. Whoever can play the best tune wins." The Quom leader laughed. "You must be joking." "What's the matter?" Jack taunted. "Afraid you'll lose to a couple of measly humans?" The Quom snatched the instrument from Jack's hand. "You're on." What followed was a bizarre musical duel, with Jack and the Quom leader trading off increasingly discordant and atonal melodies. The gathered crowd watched in a mix of horror and fascination. Finally, Jack lowered the instrument. "Well, I think it's clear who the winner is," the Quom leader spluttered. "You call that music? My ears are bleeding." "Exactly," Jack said. And that's why we win. The most avant-garde, boundary-pushing performance. The Quom looked ready to argue, but the crowd had already begun to cheer for the humans. Grumbling, the Quom leader stalked off, his men trailing behind. Rahim turned to Jack, shaking his head in wonder. That was either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Jack grinned. Hey, it's like I always say, if you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit. Now let's get back to the ship before they change their minds. Chapter 3. Hive Mind, Singular Confusion. With the Quom hot on their heels, the crew of the Prometheus desperately sought refuge. They landed on a small, unassuming planet, hoping to lay low and make repairs. As they disembarked, Ethan's eyes lit up. "Captain, look! The architecture, the infrastructure. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. This civilization must have a fascinating social structure." Jack shook his head. "Ethan, we're here to hide, not to sightsee. Let's just find a quiet spot and—" He was interrupted by a swarm of insectoid aliens, their carapaces gleaming in the sun. They surrounded the humans, chittering excitedly. Rahim raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. "We come in peace," he said, enunciating each word carefully. The aliens tilted their heads in unison. "We come in peace," they echoed, their voices blending into a single, eerie tone. Ethan's eyes widened. Fascinating! A hive mind communicating as one. Luca crossed his arms. "Great, just what we need. Bugs." One of the aliens stepped forward. "We are the Zax. You are not Quom?" Jack shook his head. "No, we're humans. We're just looking for a place to rest and repair our ship." The Zax conferred among themselves, their antennae twitching. "Humans, help Zax. Zax help humans." Ethan clapped his hands in delight. "A mutually beneficial arrangement. I can't wait to learn more about your culture." As the crew settled in, Ethan dove into his studies, observing the Zax's daily life. He was particularly intrigued by their decision-making process. "So let me get this straight," he said to one of the Zax. "When you have a disagreement, you all just argue with yourselves until you reach a consensus?" The Zax buzzed in affirmation. "Zax is one. Zax decides as one." Ethan nodded eagerly. "Incredible. But what happens when you can't agree?" The Zax's antenna drooped. Zax confused. Zax divided. Ethan's brow furrowed. "Divided? What do you mean?" Suddenly, the Zax erupted into a cacophony of chittering and clicking, their movements erratic and uncoordinated. Ethan backed away slowly. Guys, I think we might have a problem." Luca, who had been working on the ship, emerged, wiping his hands on a rag. "What's with all the racket?" Ethan gestured helplessly at the Zax. "I think I may have accidentally caused a schism in their hive mind." Luca sighed. "Of course you did. Stand back, let me handle this." He approached the Zax, his voice calm and steady. "Hey, Bugs, listen up." The Zax paused, their attention drawn to Luca. "Look, I know you're going through some stuff right now, but you can't let a little disagreement tear you apart. You're stronger together, right?" The Zax chittered uncertainly. Luca pressed on. "Think about it. You've built this incredible civilization by working as one. Sure, you might not always see eye to eye, or compound eye to compound eye, but that's what makes you great. You find a way to come together, to compromise." Slowly, the Zax's chittering subsided, their movements becoming more synchronized. Ethan watched in awe. "Luca, that was amazing. How did you do that?" Luca shrugged. It's just like working on an engine. Sometimes you gotta give it a little tough love to get all the parts working together again." One of the Zaks approached Luca. "Luca, friend of Zizak's. Zak's grateful." Luca grinned. "Hey, what are friends for? Now, let's talk about those repairs." As the humans and the Zaks worked together, a newfound understanding and respect grew between them. Ethan continued his studies, but with a gentler, more mindful approach, while Luca's pragmatic wisdom helped smooth over any misunderstandings. Jack watched from the sidelines, shaking his head in wonder. "I gotta hand it to you, Luca. You're a regular intergalactic Dr. Phil." Luca snorted. "Just call me the Bug Whisperer." Rahim chuckled. "I think this calls for a celebration. Zak-style dance party, anyone?" As the crew and their new allies danced under the alien stars, their troubles with the Quom seemed light years away. For now, at least, they had found a moment of peace and connection in the vast, unpredictable cosmos. Chapter 4. The Accidental Diplomats. The crew of the Prometheus thought they had found a moment of respite among the Zaks, but their peace was short-lived. As Luca worked tirelessly on the ship's repairs, a distress signal caught their attention. "Captain, you're gonna want to hear this," Rahim said, his brow furrowed. Jack leaned in, listening to the garbled transmission. "Sounds like a mayday. Can you clean it up?" Rahim nodded, his fingers flying over the console. The message became clearer. "Under attack. Request immediate assistance. Corax and Veldarians." Ethan's eyes widened. The Corax and Veldarians? They've been locked in a bitter conflict for generations. Jack grinned. "Sounds like they could use a little human intervention." Luca poked his head out from under a console. Cap? Maybe we should sit this one out. We're not exactly in fighting shape." But Jack was already in motion. "Nonsense. We're the Prometheus. Helping those in need is what we do. Rahim, set a course." As they approached the source of the distress signal, they found themselves in the middle of a heated space battle. Ships from both sides were locked in a dance of destruction, laser fire crisscrossing the void. "Rahim, open a channel," Jack commanded. Rahim hesitated. "To which side, Captain?" Jack shrugged. "Both of them." On the view screen, the faces of the Corax and Veldarian leaders appeared, their expressions a mix of anger and confusion. "Greetings," Jack said, his smile wide. "I'm Captain Jack Hansen of the USS Prometheus. Looks like you folks could use a hand." The Corax leader snarled. "We don't need help from outsiders, especially not to defeat these Veldarian scum." The Veldarian leader hissed. "Bold words from a Corax dog. You'll pay for your insolence." Jack held up his hands. Whoa, easy there. Why don't we all just take a deep breath and talk this out?" Both leaders started shouting at once, their words overlapping into an incomprehensible cacophony. Rahim muted the channel, turning to Jack with a raised eyebrow. "Great plan, Captain. Really top-notch diplomacy." Jack scratched his chin. "Okay, new plan. Rahim, you're up. Work your magic." Rahim sighed, unmuting the channel. "Gentlemen, please. Let's focus on what's important here. You're both facing a common threat. Wouldn't it be better to work together?" The leaders paused, considering. The Corax spoke first. The Veldarian cannot be trusted. They have broken every treaty we've ever signed. The Veldarian scoffed. Like the Koraks are any better. They're a bunch of backstabbing liars. Rahim's voice was calm and measured. I understand there's a lot of history here, but think about what you could achieve if you put aside your differences. An alliance between the Koraks and Veldarians could be a force for good in the galaxy. Slowly, the leader's postures relaxed. The Koraks nodded. Perhaps you're right. A truce, then. The Veldarian hesitated, then agreed. A truce. For now. Jack clapped Rahim on the back. See, I knew you could do it. But their celebration was cut short by an urgent transmission from Luca. Cap, we've got a problem. That last volley of fire damaged our flux capacitor. If we don't fix it soon, we're going to be stuck here. Jack sprang into action. Koraks, Veldarians, I know we just brokered a peace deal, but we could really use your help. Our ship is in desperate need of repairs. There was a long pause. Then, the Koraks leader spoke. We will help you, humans. Consider it a gesture of goodwill. The Veldarian leader nodded. As will we. Perhaps this is the first step in a new era of cooperation. As Koraks and Veldarian engineering teams beamed aboard the Prometheus, working side by side with Luca, Jack couldn't help but marvel at the turn of events. Ethan grinned. Just another day in the life of the accidental diplomats, eh, Captain? Jack chuckled. Remind me to update our business cards. Captain Jack Hansen, Explorer, Adventurer, Peacemaker. Rahim rolled his eyes. Let's just focus on getting the ship fixed before they change their minds and start shooting at each other again. But as the repairs progressed and the former enemies worked together, it became clear that something had shifted. The Koraks and Veldarians were laughing, sharing stories, finding common ground. Luca wiped his brow, stepping back from the newly repaired flux capacitor. That ought to do it, Cap. We're ready to fly. Jack nodded, a smile spreading across his face. You hear that, folks? The Prometheus is back in action, and it looks like we're leaving this corner of the cosmos a little better than we found it. As they prepared to depart, the Koraks and Veldarian leaders stood side by side, their faces beaming. Thank you, humans, the Koraks said. You've shown us a new way forward. The Veldarian nodded. May your journey be swift and your horizons ever expanding. Jack saluted, a twinkle in his eye. And may your peace be long and prosperous. The Prometheus, signing off. As the ship leapt into warp, the crew settled into their familiar rhythm, the hum of the engines a comforting backdrop. Ethan sighed contentedly. Another successful mission? Rahim chuckled. Yeah, if you call accidentally ending a centuries-old war successful. Jack leaned back in his chair, hands behind his head. Just wait until Starfleet Command hears about this. They're going to want to give us medals, or a psych eval. Maybe both. Luca snorted. As long as they give us some shore leave, I could use a break from all this accidental diplomacy. As the crew bantered and laughed, the Prometheus sailed on through the stars, ready for whatever strange new worlds and civilizations lay ahead. The accidental diplomats, indeed.